This is the 52nd episode of the weekly Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. Thank you for the help in taking this venture this far. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe and continue to share and comment on the channel. Good day. This is the Christmas edition, and we'll take a break next week. So after this issue, number 52, the next will be at the start of the new year. Special thanks to Desmond Richards and Crystal Cameron, my regular partners, and for other occasional contributors, including Elkanah Rule, who is also featured this week. But let's start with Crystal Cameron. She takes up on promiscuity and sex before marriage and reflects on the children who have their childhoods stolen or ruined by, well, listen to her.
The consequence is that your daughters are thrown headfirst into that world that you've perpetuated.
She needs to know that there's pain in life. She needs to know that there's pain in life.
Her pressure was identified as a point by Karina, now in her 30s, and a mother of 5, but who also had her first child at 12.
So we keep on hearing them talk about this sex, so me want to try it. So we go try it.
I guess I was influenced. I was for like people. Them all of them and thing, but many of my friends, so.
It's a sexual culture. It's in our music. It's in the way we express it. And we are expecting our children not to receive these cues somehow. But they are.
My goddaughter is in a Nordic country having a beautiful childhood, riding bikes with her friends and walking from school unharassed. And I wonder why I couldn't have had even a piece of that. Our 14-year-old girl said to me this week that she's going to continue wearing her mask forever. At least men aren't bothering her and saying nasty things to her sexually. She had been getting those comments and advances from the time she was 11. That same girl said to me that she wasn't having any children because she wasn't planning any children. You know how Jamaicans don't plan things like that. People just deal with one another, and then the girl breed and then the man do what him do. Children are observant, and this child has been observant enough to decide that she'd rather be alone than to just inevitably become yet another single mother with a man who might be walking road and look 11 and 12-year-old Pitney and a breed other woman in the midst of them relationship. There seems to be this ever-present pall of dysfunction, messy relationships, too many situationships, scattered parenting practices, or rather subsistence parenting, where really the bare minimum, as long as no one can say that you have pitney in your yard, now eat and go school, because too many parents are too exhausted and consumed by their bad messy decisions born of their bad messy sexual habits, and meanwhile the childhood is stolen because a little girl can't even bust breasts without being harassed, and even before she a bust breasts, her mother's nervous every time she sees her through the door and constantly telling her to be careful. It's your friends. This person might draw you off. Look at this person in the newspaper who got kidnapped.
Rape culture speaks to all the societal norms that promote a toxic environment that sexual violence can thrive in. Jamaica has a strong rape culture, and it's perpetuated through the glamorization of misogynistic behaviors, the normalization of sexual misconduct, especially when persons don't understand the basic concept of consent, and on the victim's part, fear of possible retaliation and further victimization if reported. All these work together to create a society that disregards a person's sexual rights and safety. We are affected by it, and we feel that it's at epidemic levels, and no one is really talking about it or addressing it meaningfully. Just taking public transportation to and from work daily can be an anxiety-riddled experience for Jamaican women. Something as simple as a Saturday night out socializing can easily turn into a situation of sexual harassment or assault. We wanted to showcase this so persons can get a true understanding of really what it feels like to walk in a Jamaican woman's shoes. Statistics are dismal, and we all know that the available statistics don't represent the true number or breadth of the problem in Jamaica.
The childhood is stolen when she can't even get to 12 without learning to do that panic reflex check whenever she's walking alone and there's a man coming towards her. Number 1, I'm alone. Number 2, it's late. Number 3, it's late and dark. Number 4, there are no cars coming. Number 5, this is not a undeveloped area? Is there bush to my left, to my right? Is there opportunity for this person to draw me off? And number 6, did I tell anyone where I was going? This is the loss of innocence. Why does it have to be like this?
She needs to know that there's pain in life.
Why are we like this? Why is this country like this?
That's Crystal Cameron, creative and CEO of Crystal Cameron Designs. And now, frankly speaking, the podcast. And now, frankly speaking, the commentary. Yes, it's Christmas, but what a good time to talk about banks. Frankly speaking, we don't have to be economists to know the importance of savings and to understand why it should be encouraged in any society. We don't have to be economists or financial analysts or writers like John Jackson, Ralston Hyman, Dashan Hendricks, Dennis Chong, and so on to question whether banks have served this Jamaican society well, or to know about their incomprehensible antediluvian practices at times, and even the common 2-hour wait to do some ordinary things which require customer service. But frankly speaking, I know how blatant what is almost greed is showing that the governor of the Bank of Jamaica is once again talking about it. Once again, this time last week, he was pointing to the failure of the commercial banks and other deposit-taking institutions to provide even modest increases in their deposit or savings interest rates in line with the much larger interest of now 7% paid by the central bank on deposits from them. Richard Biles was using diplomatic language for it, but the banks have been, in effect, undermining government policy to bring down the inflation rate, the poor man's greatest financial enemy. Here's what Biles said. The bank, that is the BOJ, remains concerned that while there have been some increases in deposit and loan rates, the pace of upward adjustment of the rates of deposit-taking institutions has been slow. In the case of deposit rates, for the period October 2021 to October 2022, in a context where BOJ policy rates rose by 650 basis points, or 6.5%, the weighted average deposit rate, that is, the interest rate paid on demand savings and time deposits, rose by only 49 basis points, or 0.49%. This low pass-through reflected the fact that customers of banks who held demand and saving deposits over the period of a year experienced practically no changes in the interest rates paid on these deposits. That's what the BOJ governor said. Let's be accurate and talk straight and plain. Frankly speaking, the BOJ has been giving the banks 7% on their money, up to 7%, and the highest they're paying is 1.4% when we give them our money to keep and to lend out. Over the last year, every $100 you saved in the regular savings account in any bank with the miserly interest buys less now than it could buy last year this time. Far less. Here's how Ralston Hyman explains it.
The governor is complaining because the actions of the bank are defeating his monetary policy objectives in order to contain inflation. In order to contain inflation, what the governor wants us to do is to reduce spending and increase savings. And that is why he's increasing the savings rate paid to the banks by the Bank of Jamaica. That has moved from 0.5% in September of last year to 7% in November of this year. But instead of increasing the savings rate, the banks have not been doing that. The high savings rate is being paid by JMB, which is 1.46%. And every other bank is below that. The big banks, such as NCB and Scotiabank, which dominates the banking sector, they control more than 60% of the savings, more than 60% of the deposit. NCB is paying 0.62%, while DNS is paying 0.28%. Now, if you look at the rate of inflation at 9.9%, it means that the people are saving. They are getting a negative return, and that's not an encouragement to save. So as a result, they'd rather spend their money than save it, and that is defeating the governor's objective. And that is why the governor is saying that the people must call out the banks, because you know it is not easy to move your account from one bank to another because of the collusion they engage in. And that is why he's saying, name them and shame them, and say that why.
Is there any understanding of why the banks are doing this and why?
They are doing it because they want to make more profits. Because if you look at the highest rate, 1.46 being paid by the JMB, and you subtract that from the 7 that they are getting from the BOJ, that's over 5 percentage points. And when you borrow from them, it's in the 15 and the 16. So what we call the spread, the difference between what they pay savers and the difference between what they lend you at. They are making a whole lot of money in terms of their net interest income, which is the difference between what they pay you and what they charge you for a loan. So that helps them to become more profitable. And that is why the governor was telling you that what we have is an oligopoly. It means that the system is controlled by the two big banks, BNS and NCB. And the smaller banks, they are not going to move unless those big banks move. So that's the problem. Defeating the government's monetary policy, which is aimed at containing inflation.
That's financial analyst and talk show host Ralston Hyman. Now to Desmond Richards.
Today, there will be 13 days before 2022 ends. Yes, we are ending another year carrying a number of fundamental burdens on our shoulders with no clear plans to address them next year. No clear plans. Where is the plan to address the murder rate in Jamaica? Over 1,000 Jamaicans have been murdered annually for the past 20 years. Where is the plan to address that? The carnage on our roads continues, over 450 killed so far this year. Where is the plan? Where is the plan to address landlessness? Over 1 million living in hand-planned communities and gully banks and riverbeds. Where is the plan to address that? How long are we going to wait before understanding that landlessness is one of the key ingredients to many of our social problems in Jamaica? The crime problem, as I said, most of them are attributed to landlessness. And there are no plans to address this matter. So we are going to go into 2023 with all these issues on our shoulders. We are going to carry them forward again with no plan to address them. And we are 60 years, over 60 years as an independent country. Now, is this how we are going to continue to live? Is this how we are going to continue with the murders, the carnage on the roads, the landlessness, and all the social problems that continue to heat at the root of the Jamaican society? Let us make next year an action year.
That's Desmond Richards, journalist and founder of internet radio, Rebel Radio Jamaica. Here's a little flashback at Christmas before independence from the vantage point of rural St. Catherine, as remembered by Elkanah Rule.
The week before Christmas was the most active. The drunkards and the gamblers and all people who plied their trades that time were everywhere to be seen. Now, Christmas Eve was particularly pleasant to most people, particularly so. There was a grand market the day before Christmas. Many of the villages were far away from the market. The villages were spread out on some 8 and 10 miles away. We had always wanted to follow our mothers or parents to the market. They promised that they would take us on a very exciting day, and that day would be Grand Market. My first appearance at a market was on Grand Market Day, and I was amazed to see the place covered all over with toys. There were balloons, there were fifi, there were toy cars and toy everything, miniature everything. And there were sellers and the noise and the crowd. I have never seen anything like that in my life.
That's Elkanah Rule, author and former educator. Endgame. Here now are Christmas images from a few of you here in Jamaica, from Sav to Brownstown to Port Antonio, and to North America, to Florida, New York City, Ottawa, and elsewhere, and England too. Thank you all again for sharing, liking, and subscribing to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. Remember, we take a break next week. Just subscribe and you won't miss the resumption of this journey. On behalf of Ajani Allen, the video editor, Desmond Richards, Crystal Cameron, and all the critics who are forever welcome, have a fantastic season. I am Franklin McKnight.